Hello and welcome to an all new episode of Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reid, and I'm with Javier. And we're going to try the last name. You tell us if we get it right. Largaespada.
Oh, that was good. That was really good. Yeah, Largaespada, Largaespada. Yeah, you did. You nailed it. Perfect. Thank you, Antoine. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's like we just started communicating over the last couple weeks, but
Yeah.
I think most people are most aware of Drew Estate, which is where you are currently employed. But give us like a little intro to you. Like, what do you do at Drew Estate? Because I know that people are kind of like, there's so many people at Drew Estate. It's like, what do
Yeah.
you all do? So, what do you do at Drew Estate?
Yeah, we have a football team of people. There's so many
Mhm.
of us, and the team is so strong, and I'm happy to be a part of it. So I'm Javier Largaespada. I work at digital marketing. So things that you see on Instagram, our social media pages, as well as a website. Of course, with digital partners as well. Like Byron Scott and the Fast Break podcast, things like that, and handling the media is basically what I do for Drew Estate. I've been with the company for 5 years. I worked my way up. I started off, getting everyone their coffee, making sure lunch orders were placed, answering the phone calls. Thank you for calling Drew Estate, and basically, yeah, that was 3 years of doing that, and then now I'm 2 years with digital marketing, and basically helping out the marketing team in any way too. Everything kind of leans into another. It's an ecosystem, right? We have a Down with the Crown, that experiential event that we're going to do in October in Arizona. That needs a digital component as well, right? We need to get the tickets on sale, etc., things like that. So with brand, we have these new releases that came out during the show. We need digital assets for that, for not only our accounts, but also for our TMs to post, and to get the word out there that these brand new brands are out and available to everyone. So, and kind of like what they look like, so they know what to look for when they go to the humidor. So yeah, digital marketing.
Which is a mouthful. And I know
Yeah.
that I deal with digital marketing. So I know it's even probably 10,000 more bullet points and jobs to that you're not mentioning.
Right, yeah. There's customer service stuff. There's yeah, the list could go on. I could talk about it for hours, but yeah, let's not bore the listeners so early in the in the podcast.
Well, before we jump into more of you and digital marketing and Drew Estate, I wanted to ask you an icebreaker question to kind of get
Cool.
things flowing, get things ready for our conversation. Um, so for you, your my icebreaker question to you is, what's the compliment you've received that has stuck with you, and why did that compliment stick with you?
One of our family friends was over, and he actually was like a teacher at my high school, or at the high school I was going to. He said something that like, "Oh, Javier's is very down to earth." Um, and I don't know, right when you said that, that's something that stuck out. That is what came to my mind, and it just stuck out, I guess, probably for many reasons, right? Like, I want, and I've always had this kind of approachable feel, um, for people. Sometimes people tell me too much, and I don't need to know all that, but but no, in all honesty, it's a trait that I make sure that I protect, and I want to remain that way for people to always feel like they could ask me, or I'm not too big enough to ask, say, hey, can you make a coffee for me? Like even now, or hey, can you pass me that? Like any way I could help. I'm always, a big thing in my household too was my house is your house, mi casa es tu casa.
Mhm.
So very hospitable, and like making sure everyone's comfortable. So yeah, down to earth. I don't know, maybe that Chris Rock movie came out too, and I was like, that sounds super cool. but but I just love that compliment. I thought it stuck with me.
It's funny because sometimes learning how to take a compliment is a skill that we all kind of have to get used to. I mean, I think there's some people who have no problem with that, but there's others that are like, well, they counter that compliment with something that they're going to put themselves down by, or I think to try to humble themselves or to try to level the playing field. So it's good that you're able to take a compliment.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I do a good job say, "Oh, thank you, I appreciate it." But there's also sometimes I run into that too, or people, on the team will tell me that even talking about a compliment is weird. But like, they see that I'm working hard, and I'm
Mhm.
like, and I know I have another level that I need to go. I need to keep working harder. Just because JD makes fun of me because I say just because I got this one promotion, he's like, "Dang, was I supposed to promote you 3 times?" but, just because I got this one promotion doesn't mean okay. Now it's time to put my feet up, soak in my wins, and hey, I made it. No, it's that now it's time to work twice as hard, and that's what I've been really, really, really aiming to do.
Oh, good. Well, I think that's a good kind of tee off to where I want to take the conversation, which is before we get into the Drew Estate nuts and bolts, is figuring out like how did you get into digital marketing or just marketing in general? Because
Mhm.
you said a few minutes ago that you kind of worked your way up to where you are now, which is I think the way to do it for a lot of people. Because I know that where I started 10 years ago was not anywhere close to where I am now. So how did you get into the marketing field?
Man, dang, no one has really asked me that, but this is so much stuff. I want to say so. Well, I'll take it a couple years back, maybe even 10 plus years back. I had the opportunity to work for an independent label as straight out of high school, literally the day after I graduated, as an intern, and I did little things like data entry with the sales and physical and digital copies, but also like I started creating banners and started working out with Photoshop a lot during that time, and that's where I kind of built that skill to a point. And this was like MySpace banners and stuff like that. Couple notable names, like Baby Bash, Frankie J, and Little Rob. If you know, you know, I guess. But those type of acts in the music industry. So that happened, and then I went back home. I went to California, where I'm originally from. Went back to California for that job. Spent about a year and a half, and it really wasn't necessarily me. It was me wanting to come back home to be back with the family, and then I had like this moment of hospitality, right? And when I worked for Marriott, and I worked my way up there too, as well. And but Marriott taught me something in branding too, that everything's perspective. As I was there right at the front desk, like when you and welcome someone in, you're it's not a facade, I don't want to say, but like,
Mhm.
I always saw it a little bit real quick, not that they derail us. I always saw it
Yeah.
almost like acting, like I'm putting this acting show, or like the show and I'm relatively a happy guy, so it's actors always do good when they get to play themselves, a la Denzel, but like yeah, like so but it's like this facade, or um this way of doing it, of like showing it and how luxury works, and that also spanned my horizons and my knowledge of things. We had Danny Boot. DB, we had I forget his name, Danny Bugol, I think is his name, famous chef, world-renowned chef, probably messing up the last name, but right, that like just made my mind go, and then see like what people like to spend their money on, and what does luxury really mean. And you have your own definition, Antoine, I have mine, and the people that are listening have their own. But really, for the hospitality world, is luxury is time. You give that time back to your guests and to your people. So that got me a little bit more in that mindset a little bit, now that I think about it. Hopefully, maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but then fast forward, I started working with Keller Williams, with realtors, real estate agents that were, either they've been realtors for a while to brand new, just got their license. We brought them over. You need a broker to in order to close a deal in real estate. So really helping them with their digital footprint and their social media and things like that. And also, as well as like advertisements and running Facebook ads for um for real estates and properties in the Miami area. So that always helped me out as far and gain that knowledge of like how running ads work, reading those analytics, seeing what cost per clicks and things like that, those hype words. So I had all that in my back pocket as I was waiting patiently for my turn at at Drew Estate.
But I like how you, because I'm in the same position where graphic design, it seems like when you're talking about MySpace, like some of the graphic
Mhm.
design stuff was like the precursor to you becoming this marketing professional that you are today. And
Thank
I
you.
don't think
Yes.
a lot of people think about that because, like, especially today with um, Canva and other programs making it easy to create graphics, it's like they forget the human side of like really learning like the psychology of colors and just how to communicate a message visually. Um, People forget that skill set as, especially like I said, as it becomes easier to create graphics and stuff outside of Photoshop and some of the early programs.
Right. No, you're so right. I actually haven't thought about that or even think about like, but that was helping me. That helped me in some way. That was and my godfather would always say this too, and I worked with him closely during that time. But it was just like adding something to my tool belt, and it did, and it paid off. And
Hmm.
there's even times that I look at graphics. We have a phenomenal team of graphic designers too at Drew Estate with Joey, who's been there with JD every step of the way. But I get to put my 2 cents in, and sometimes things get changed, sometimes things get left the same, but but at least I have, I know what that entails of, and how, some people think it's just easy, but it's not, because if you're not using something like Canva or some of these other platforms, it is a little tricky to navigate.
Especially at Drew State, because you all kind of, to me, I interpret and see you all as a visual company as much as you are anything else. Like it's always been about the visuals. Like I know people can't see it because it's kind of blurry, but like
Yes,
the
the
water
water
tower
tower.
that you all did the project a couple years ago with all these different graffiti artists and artists in
Yeah.
general doing their take on like the same thing, and subculture studios and just Jonathan Drew's love of art is like that visual um, thing is what sets Drew Estate apart sometimes from the other brands in the industry because you all do realize that you can tell the story that you need to tell not only through the usual press release but sometimes visually as well.
Visually, yeah. Even what we did with these last two brands, we have these videos, hype videos that basically we made it more of a commercial and gave the brands a bit of more persona in them, and that was all visual and storytelling through that. But real quick, because you mentioned this of the art, and I think this would be something exciting and something that is near and dear to my heart. Um, in Nicaragua, when went over there, right, they were fresh off a revolution war, a civil war, essentially, right, where houses
Mhm.
were being, you know, blown up, or there was these walls that were breaking down, and homes that were broken, right, that when we went over there, we did bring that style and graffiti. You go to Esteli now, you see graffiti everywhere, and it was because of JD and Drew Estate, because we went over there and we started painting acid murals and all these murals throughout the whole city. Where there was a lady who was like, "Hey, can you guys paint my house? We have some paint. Can you guys paint over here?" And that part has a in that art has always been a part of Drew Estate, which is something that is so cool and unique to us and part of our story. That and like how you said, JD is a absolute fan of art. His parents were antique dealers. So he's always had an eye of Art Deco and like seeing things in his perspective. So that has been really cool. I kind of JD kind of said that earlier this week, so it's on top of mind. So that's why I'm kind of saying it, because I was like, damn, that's awesome. It's so right. When you all is war, and then you start seeing some colorful stuff on the wall, you're like, that's freaking cool. And we got to do that for Esteli, Nicaragua.
And especially the kind of art and colors that you all deal with. Like lots of cigar companies have like very similar color palette. Browns, bronze, silvers, golds, maroon. I mean, that's like the color palette that everyone kind
That
of
emerald,
uses.
that like
Right? Yeah, it's
classy.
like everyone uses, and it's like Drew Estate is one of those companies that honestly you all just kind of whatever project you're working on, you're going to use the colors to bring that to life. And I think that's a big deal that like in what you said like about graffiti, like when you are riding around Esteli, you do see the artwork and the graffiti and it's nice. It breaks up everything else that's going on and it catches your attention. And as a company, obviously you want to bring that attention to your brand. So
Yeah.
needing to use those poppy colors just helps tell the story.
Definitely, and Drew Estate being a disruptor in the industry of cigars, right? We disrupted it in a major way, utilizing these different colors, and even with our acid line, how there's, it's like Thanos. We have all the colors there. You can collect them all. Get your Infinity Gauntlet acid cigar. But it's been a part of everything that we do with Nika Rustica, the different type of coloring, how we use coloring for some of the brands, and which colors we don't use for some of the brands. Deadwood being such an artsy, deals with those more toes inspired logos that really gets people pulled in. And a lot of people go to the humidor and look at the bands first, right, and they see what band they like, and bam, I know I smoked Matt Booth cigars because that cool freaking astronaut, right.
Mhm.
Like that pulled me in. So yeah, it's definitely a part of the visual process, and we get to do that and have some fun with Drew Estate, and that's what I love about it.
So, going off of that, what brought you to Drew Estate? Because I know you said you started off in a completely different position, obviously, than where you are now. So, what
Yeah.
what made you come over to Drew Estate, and what did you know about the company before you came over?
So it's really funny. So I was just in between jobs, right? I was looking to make ends meet. I was putting my resume anywhere and everywhere that let me upload it on, what is it, Indeed,
Hmm.
um, right? And then I got a call one day. No, actually, this is funnier, and since it's deep cuts, I'll get a little deeper than that. I started a job. Started this job at up. It was like it's like a printer company, but not printer for like not Dunder Mifflin, for like paper or anything like that. Like printers for like cards for hotels, like stuff like that, or like access points.
Hmm.
Those big thicker cards that they give, for some offices, etc. So like there's printers for those ID badges, and then we'll do that. We'll sell, service them, things like that. So I'm there. I started that day, and then you ever get that gut feeling when you're somewhere new and you're like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
This isn't it. One, way too complicated for what my hourly wage is going to be. I was like, I don't need to. And it was also a drive from my house too. So I was like, I don't think I need this. So I called my dad. I'm probably going to mention my dad 50 times during this thing, but he's, my hero. I
Hmm.
called him. I said, hey, I don't think this is it. And then he says, well, hey, you're a man now, right? Putting that pressure back on me. You're a man now. You get to do what you want to do, make your own decision. If you feel that it's not right to do, then I'll stand by you. I was like, I think there's something else better there for me. There's something else better for me. And thankfully there was, because not only I guess the movie version would be better. Very next day in the morning, I got a call, and it was this temp agency called Robert Half, and they said, "Hey, Javier, we looked at your resume, we sent it to a couple people, and do you mind cigar smoke?" And I said, "No, I don't mind it." Like, okay, great. Well, this office is not too far from your house. This office, originally, it was like a match made in heaven. It was 3 traffic lights away. I live in
Oh,
Miami. Miami's a big
I
city,
know. I
right?
know.
I would either have to go all the way downtown or God knows where. To the traffic was always like a battle with my, to bring home the bacon, from a professional career. Like it was not, it was the commute, and then there was the job, right? Like it's a whole thing. I remember this one. I would take the metro rail, which is our bus here, and then take the metro mover to get closer to it. and I still had to drive to the metro. So it doesn't. Needless to say, it's always been a pain in the rear end when it comes to commute down here in
Hmm.
Miami. And bam, okay, 3 traffic lights away. So they're like, hey, can you start tomorrow? Can you go there tomorrow and see if you like it? I said, okay, cool. So I look it up, Drew Estate. I started looking. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Cigars. I saw a couple of like, when you went to the website. The website, funny enough, the website looked like a website from the 1980s. I did get a chance. Now it's brand new, drewestate.com. Definitely check it out. I had a little bit of help in that, which has been awesome, and continue to update it with the new exciting stuff that we have. But so I go to that site, read up a little bit. I'm like, damn, this is pretty cool. It's a fairly new company too, right? Like, it's not 100 years or whatever. They at that time we were like 25. I
Hmm.
saw some things like Acid 20 that just like got released and things like that. So I was like, oh wow, cool. So I stroll on in, right? I came from real estate, right? I had a button up shirt, long sleeves, my slacks, my belt, my shoes ready to go. And Eric Cordova, who I always tell him that I owe him everything, because he's the one that walked me through the office and showed me everything and how to do essentially what I was being hired for, though, too. But really a moment that is always engraved, and I always got to talk about it. And I told Willie Herrera this story, and he probably, grunts and rolls his eyes when I tell him this. But I saw the sign, Herrera Esteli. My mother's maiden name is Herrera, and her hometown, where she's from, is Esteli. And I've gone to Nicaragua. By that time, I went probably 3 times. But I've always loved Esteli, like the city of Esteli. So I'm right. You walk in and imagine seeing that. Imagine seeing your mother's name in her hometown, right? And you see that on the wall, and you're like, holy shoot, am I in the right place? Like, or is this a prank? What's going on? And then Eric also told me that we have the Gran Fabrica. We did safari tours, and we were like in COVID, but we were like, but remember, COVID had a comeback. So
Right.
like, so because there was a point that I was like completely remote, and then but yeah, so then I got to walk in, learn a little bit more about the brand, started watching Freestyle Live, and really became immersed with the culture that Drew Estate was, and is, and making sure if I have a hand in it, to protect it, to always like have our culture to be a part of it, because it's very big. It's very big. The Drew Estate fans, they expect something, a certain amount of vibe from us, and we always have to deliver that. So, but that was my introduction to Drew Estate, was literally a sign that said Herrera Esteli.
But it was literally a sign. I mean,
Yeah,
you
right. And
look
then
at it.
going back to that, I was like, wow. Then it was like, I think there's time. I think this is for me, right? I think this is for me. Everyone's relaxed here. I remember one of my first calls, I was like, I missed a call or something like that, and it was Rex Snyder, who he does our liquor channel, and I was like, oh my god, Rex, I'm so sorry that I missed your call. Blah, 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 blah. He was like, slow down. It's not how we
Breathe.
do things here. Yeah, breathe. This is cigars. You can't be stressed and smoke a cigar. You know, just tell me what happened and we'll resolve it. And I was like, oh man, I started falling in love with it more, and meeting everyone from the bottom to the top. And JD was always super nice to me at the desk. Josh Roque, who was always cool with me, inviting me to stuff, like that was awesome. Jack Heyer, who also he now works for Camacho. He gave me my tobacconist book, and he fought for me in some ways. I got into like the set of Freestyle Live, and hey, he pushed me along, and at least putting it in my mind that there's room for growth here, and I see your talent. So I thought that was really cool, and I ended up picking the right place. The right place found me. Like what I was saying about the other place, this was for me, and 5 years in, I feel like that was right. Probably the best decision I did was to leave that
Yes, definitely.
job. Have
I
Drew State
know,
find me.
like something that I've said on the podcast a couple times is there's a business book I read a long time ago, and I remember it saying a skill that you need to have is learning when is it time to leave the party. So
Yes,
if
yeah.
you can discover when it's time to leave the party, then it's you're going to be kind of where you need to be. So you figured out when to leave the
Leave
party
the
of
party.
the
Yeah.
other job that put you in the right place to get this job.
Which ended up being so perfect. So perfect. Literally, like, I love my job.
So with Drew Estate, I mean, like the on the good side, it's name recognition. I mean, anyone who comes
Mhm.
into the industry pretty much knows Drew Estate. Like if you we just got finished with a trade show, you know what to look for. Like you never have to say like what's Drew Estate's booth gonna look like or what is like the vibe, the music coming from
Music.
it.
Yeah.
The graffiti, the artwork is always kind of like what to look for. So some people may think, well, what do you have to market? Because you could probably just say, we're going to release so and so, and poof, people buy it. So, what would you say, having, working behind the scenes, is like the biggest challenge when it comes to marketing a company like Drew State?
I think that's a great question, right? Because we've been fortunate enough to be at the top, right?
Hmm.
I feel like Drew Estate is top five cigar companies and distributing manufacturers in the world, and we worked our tail to get there. Um, but I think one of the challenges that we always find is we feel like education has always been our thing, right? We with Cigar Safari and with Tour de Liga
Hmm.
and Barn Smoker that we do these educational moments too, but feel like we still want to educate. There's new cigar smokers, someone's gonna have, their first cigar today as we're talking, right, and
Hmm.
them not connecting that. Oh, my first cigar might have been a Deadwood, let's say, but Deadwood is also made by the same company that makes Deadwood also makes Liga Privada or
Hmm.
Nicrustica, Undercrown, right? Like it's about that, like marketing, like that connection between all of them too. I think like another challenge is also not to be bored down. Like a lot of times it's like, oh, the people should know this. They should. It's a little obvious to us. Because we're looking at the painting,
Hmm.
super close. We're involved. We're immersed in it. That we have to kind of relearn and re-educate. You know, people, consumers, fans, new smokers, um, new cigar smokers, or people that have just got are getting more into the culture of cigar smoking, like about Drew Estate, about cigars, what to do, what not to do, as far as like a lounge etiquette, right? But yeah, I think that's one thing that we do. Another thing is like we don't want to have brand fatigue, and that even like happens. Yeah, probably happens to us first before the market's going to tell us, right? If we pumped out 10 more Deadwoods, I think the market wouldn't tell us. They would continue to sell, but then for us it wouldn't be like something new and exciting to talk about, or right, or something else, a disruptor, a new brand. So I think that in a course, we want to remain on top, thinking of new ways on how we could incentivize consumers, how we could help the store owners, our partners that carry our brands, how we could help them move product. So it's this whole ecosystem of where we're thinking of, right? What events can we make that would highlight a brand more, or bring maybe people that are adjacent, maybe the casual cigar smoker, maybe the guy who only smokes when he's at the golf course. How do we get him to go to Barn Smoker, right? Because we know that the people that are immersed in Drew Estate culture or in cigar culture, they at least know about it, about Barn Smoker, or about our family reunion. But how do we get that person to be aware of it? How do we become more open and also be at these places, like we did Super Bowl events with Mike Ditka this year, like this little things that are kind of like cigar adjacent. How can we be there, not in your face, and not like you need to smoke a cigar,
Right.
because I don't think the FDA will like that, but but more like being in the right places, the right times to have an activation, a brand activation, to get people aware of the Drew Estate and this culture, because we love it. We just want everyone else to know about it.
And I think it another part of this, which I know from speaking to lots of retailers, when it comes to, they probably look at Drew Estate and they probably think Drew Estate have huge social media following. What problems could you possibly have in promoting your stuff? But I'm sure like any company you experience, it's like once you get into an industry like this where it's kind of adult products, let's just say,
Mhm.
um, it's you don't have the ability to do everything that every company can do, and it makes it to me it makes it much more difficult because if you were out there, you know, um, doing like an animal shelter,
Right.
Facebook, you could do Facebook, whatever, LinkedIn ads, you could do whatever kind of videos you wanted on YouTube, you'll get tons of views. But it's like the moment you do anything that has to deal with this kind of stuff, premium cigars, it gets really tricky. And I don't know how you feel, but I know on my side, working with PCA sometimes I feel like I'm right working like walking the tightrope, trying not to do anything that you know at any time gets the algorithm go, ooh, like what's this
Oh,
person doing? What's this company doing? So how do you navigate this kind of really tricky kind of this place where we're at with
right. With the industry.
marketing a niche product that's not only niche but it's considered adult. You're restricted already going into it. You get restricted put on you without doing, even if you play by the rules. So how do you navigate that?
Man, that's a great question because I remember when I first came on to digital marketing, I had all these exciting ideas. We could run Facebook ads and we could target this, and that. And, that knowledge that I gained with the real estate company and ideas. Oh, Kendrick Lamar, Mustard. We need to do something like that. Like we can have fun there, or all these little ideas. And there's probably 50 more that we can't do, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
not going to get past legal. That's not going to get past legal. That became such a thing, right? And now I'm adjusted my brain a little to it. So how do I navigate that? Really is understanding that we do have restrictions and being okay with that, right? Like kind of not complaining to the refs. The refs are going to call the game. Working with them to make sure that we are getting what we can do and doing it the right way is really how I've been navigating it and making sure, okay, that idea can't work, or that is something we can't do. What is that we can do, and how can we still make it cool? Not teetering on the line, but kind of getting it passed through legal approval. Um, so it's been it is a challenge, right? And it also, but it's fun to like kind of now have your hand tied behind your back and then like see what you could still do and the cool stuff that we do at Drew Estate. So yeah, it's just learning how to navigate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that that's like I said, that's definitely a challenge with this category, but I do think, learning how to accept it and just working with having your one hand tied behind your back or sometimes two hands tied behind your back and learning how to push something forward is a great skill. I mean, it's like once you learn how to do that is everything else is kind of a little bit easier. Not simple, but
Yeah, it's easier. You get more creative. You think, you play in that sandbox of the regulations that we do have and what we can do. You get a little bit more like, I don't want to say numb to it, but like more like, oh, you catch something like, oh well, we can't do that. Oh, well, what about working with? I'm just gonna throw it in. What about working with J.Sann? Oh well, J.Sann probably has a demographic that skews a little bit younger, and we want to be 25 and up. We don't want to be too close to 21. Things like that, of course, have come across, and you really just have to. I mean, for me too, it's I'm never short of ideas. Thank God. So it's like okay, and it's made my mind kind of being able to work through it. And I think the team has also recognized that, and we're all like getting into this groove. But that's why the marketing part of it is like, we still, how do we market, to, we're not necessarily directing an audience, but like, how can we do it rather than the normal ways of, okay, let's just throw an Instagram ad, right? Or
Hmm.
you see some companies do a great job, or damn, that reel really pulled me in, or when I was scrolling Instagram and I saw that made me want to buy a product. It's happened to me. But not having that option is where we get to be fun and have more creativity.
And this is the part of the show that I'm looking that I mean, the conversation has been great, but there's so many things that you all revealed at the trade show and getting
Yeah.
into like marketing and how do you get the word out about all this stuff. You all had I mean, I've grown used to it. I know you all wait until almost like 2 weeks before the show and then you're like, okay, now we're gonna start trickling out information and as you get closer to the show you have all these big news items. So it's May, but I know people may have missed some items, some news items. So to kind of like touch on all this stuff, getting your take on some of these headlines that Drew State has just put out there. I think we need to start with Drew Dominicana because
Yes,
you tell your part of the story, and I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you. No, I don't have a part in the story, but I have like a adjacent
you
kind of
do.
like coming in. But you tell
Yeah.
your part of the story. Like, what is it? Why are you all doing it?
So Drew Dominicana was actually a dream of JD's, right? That he wrote on a white piece of paper in one of his notebooks. Open. It really was between Nicaragua and DR. We ended up, of course, the story is told. We're in Nicaragua, and we have been for 30 years. And we're also the only manufacturer that only operates through one country. So really it was fulfilling that dream for JD as well. Our partners, our big brother, Swisher, has always been in DR2 in
Mhm.
Santiago at the trade free zone. So they've always been there too. It made sense. We're growing, we're developing more brands. We have some really successful ones. We want to continue on making new brands and blends. So we wanted to just expand that, and it's been great to be on that ground level floor, seeing the factory before it's fully open. I didn't get that opportunity. I was like 3 years old when Ground Fabrica opened. So being literally there with our hard hats on and checking out the facility has been amazing, and just a treat to say that with this company we're entering a new era, which we at the office we like to coin the Javiera. We're trying to get that going and maybe on t-shirts. But the Javiera is what we've been under the Javiera for 5 years now, but as it continues to go along the road, sorry, talking about myself in third person is crazy, but right, as we continue go on this road, and that's what has been for me, right? Again, that just I'm for blanking out on the phrase of how you say it, but just reconfirming, man, I'm at the right place at the right time. I'm at the right place with this company. We're starting something new. Yes, of course, I love Nicaragua. Of course, I would want us to go back to Nicaragua more often. But going to DR and my admiration for Dominican culture has always been there in my life. A couple of my neighbors are Dominican, so it's just been cool. I've been there more times than they have, and they're like, "My God, you're more Dominican than I am now." They're like, "I know the city more," so it's been a treat.
My behind the scenes, um, I guess like anecdote about all this is at Pro Cigar this year.
Oh yes.
We choose this. With Pro Cigar, you choose different tours you want to go on beforehand. You go on these tours and stuff. So I chose the Law for Dominican tour, and I chose because Lito Jr., Tony, Eddie, Lito Senior,
Yeah,
Inez, like all of them are like really cool people. Really like
they're great people. They're
Law
awesome.
for
Some of the
Dominicana, the brand, like what they do. Um, so I we were there on this tour, and you saw people. It was like the marketing people from Law for Dominicana, like getting a phone call, like, "Hello, yes, okay, when today." So he's gonna come here. Okay, well, okay. okay, yeah, we'll be ready. So I mean, we're thinking like, who is this? Like, who are they talking about? Like, it's we thought it was like maybe someone coming late to the tour. They're just like, can you make sure you think the gates part, in this dramatic way, like like you're on a soap opera, and the black truck rolls in and the door opens and you're just like, who is it, who is it? And I mean, we're sitting there, but it wasn't like, who is it, who is it? It was like, oh, who's that? It's like somebody's like late to the tour, and, maybe like a VIP person who's just like, wait for me or whatever. And it gets out and this JD Jonathan Drew, and we're just like, wow, that was unexpected. And they were like, they had no plans for it either, but
Mhm.
so it became a nice kind of different kind of tour than we would normally have, because JD, we know he was participating in the tour, just listening to Lito's story and stuff like that. And then at the end, he gives us like very passionate speech about working with La Flor Dominicana and this Lito and
Yeah.
Junior and like everyone. And so it's a very nice to see that. But at the same time, we were like, why? Like, Jonathan Drew. And I remember people saying, like, well, does he have a factory here? And I was like, No. Then why is he here? But it's like, but we've gotten so used to Jonathan Drew just showing up when he wants to show up. It's just like
Right,
he can do
yeah.
whatever he wants to do. It's Jonathan Drew.
It's
So it was
Jonathan
nice
Drew,
to kind
it's
of
JD.
experience that, and then
Definitely, yeah.
see later on. It's like, oh, okay.
That makes sense. What's funny, not now, I think I could speak on a little bit of what of my background of that story. So we walked through the new factory, and something I can't speak about, and then we had a meeting of things I can't speak about, and and then he was like, "Yeah, I'm about to go to LFD," and I was like, "Oh, sick! Like right now?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna go." Like he's like packing up all his stuff. He's like getting ready. I was like, "Well, damn. Like you want me to go? You want me to like get like footage while you're there or whatever like that?" And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm just gonna go real quick and I'll be right back." And we're like, "Oh, okay. I guess we're done with the meeting." And then he came, and then he was super excited and happy when we ended up catching back up with him about that tour. He grabbed this he had great pictures of himself with Lito, and he respects that family so much. And then I got the opportunity to talk to Tony at Pour Cigar at the one of the last nights.
Mhm.
Sorry, just chatting with him, and they're so cool and great people. We look forward to working with them in any way, in any shape too. Now that we're neighbors now, literally in DR now with them, hopefully there is some cool stuff that comes with I don't know, but yeah, with Jonathan and with Leo Gomez, I could say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I remember this is like a super deep cut for people. And it's rare that I really have this type of like deep cut knowledge of the industry like this. But a couple like years ago, when Drew Estate used to be the distributor for Balmoral,
Hmm.
um, they Lido and Balmoral did a great collaboration. Um, and so it would be nice to see it, that collaboration kind of shift over here, and it's like a Lido, and what could Lido and JD come up with? Because I'm sure that alone would be earth shattering, newsworthy. So
Yeah, it would
they
be.
kind of got it's that sixth degree of the cigar industry, so they gotten close before, so that
Yeah.
they can get a little bit closer.
I would love to see that. That would be something so awesome. Yeah, two titans
Hmm.
meeting and doing something, even if it's something as small as a lighter. I know it would be the best freaking lighter in the world. So yeah, I would love to see something like that too.
Give us switching topics. Give us the rundown on the new cigars. There's
All
two
right.
big releases that you all kind of really focused on at the trade show, and I
Yeah.
know that those cigars now are starting to show up in stores.
Taurus, yeah.
So,
I've
and
been seeing my timeline is a little skewed. I've been seeing them everywhere because,
That's
of course,
great.
right, yeah. It's been great. So we have Deadwood Dominicana, Buenos Noches. We basically came out with the part two. When there's a good movie that is out, a blockbuster hit, you
That's
got to come
this.
up with the part two.
I don't think
Yeah,
you
there
can
you
see with
go.
the camera, but
No, no, it looks perfect. Yeah, I see it pretty crystal clear. So it's the Dominicana, but now with the Maduro wrapper on there. It does have that premium sweet cap still there, but it dissipates way sooner than it did with the Connecticut, and that's so interesting too. With the Maduro, of course, the master blender Willie Herrera did an exceptional job in the blend team with this new cigar. It pairs great with an espresso martini. In the video, I'm making one, but yeah, we're super happy about this because, of course, making it Maduro, right? You have a shade and you have a Maduro, is something that we've done before with a couple of our blends, with Underground, Blacken, etc. But what I like about this is it goes back along to that journey, right? If you had that year of smoking Deadwood Dominicana and now this came out, and your palate should be acceptable to now that premium sweet cap dissipating a little bit. So now you're almost ready for traditional cigars, or maybe you could go without maybe one or two times that you're smoking throughout the day with a pure traditional cigar. Um which is funny, right? Willie was like, what the heck? What do people mean that it's not a traditional cigar? What? But or what makes a traditional cigar,
mhm.
right? Because wait, because cigars are hand rolled, so that's what makes them cigars, right? Like it was this whole thing that he was getting into, and I love that because it was true. I mean, especially someone like me who's probably not as knowledgeable. There's probably people that would, and aficionados will say, well, if it, traditional means no infusion, tastes like dirt, it tastes like tobacco, right? Like okay, well, you got it. Yes, okay. If that's your ruling of a traditional cigar, it's a traditional cigar. But it's fascinating though, right? It's like, what makes a movie? Just because it's on Hulu doesn't make it's a movie? Well, no, they're winning awards now at the at the Oscars. So,
Mhm.
but that's one of our new cigars. When we came this year prepared, the guns loaded. We have a new cigar to go alongside that, and I think after a while of smoking that Buenos Noches, you could have the El Tigre, which I have this right here, which has an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper
Yeah,
on
this
it. It is also soft box press. It has some, well, but Dominican forward filler, and the binder is H99 Criollo. And this cigar is very dear to me, not only that it's part of the Undercrown line, one of my favorite brands that Drew Estate has come up with, because it is an ode to the factory. It's born on the factory floor, and it's basically a cigar that is made from well, all cigars are made from now I'm thinking like Willie, all of them are made in this, but it was a brand that was born on the factory floor. And this was also our full traditional, in those words, right? Quote unquote cigar that we came out with for Drew Dominicana, still rolled in Esteli, Nicaragua at the Gran Fabrica. But I had the pleasure to name the cigar as well, El Tigre, which has made me be a little bit more fond to it. I love that. And speaking of, right, the legal thing that we're talking about, hey Javier, that's a great name, but we got to make it pass legal. We got to make it pass copyright. And so after that meeting, I was super ecstatic. I was like, dude, I think I just named a cigar. Um, but then brought kind of calmed myself down and waited to see if we got through all the approvals, and we did. And yeah, we have three sizes of this one: Robusto, Toro, and a double Corona as well. And beautiful box. We also put the Dominican flag there as well. So yeah, El Tigre, which translates to tiger, but it's not so much about the animal itself. Drew Estate has always been big into culture and also education, like we were saying. So I felt like this name is also ode to Pedro Gomez's event cigar, which is Tuani. And Tuani in Nicaragua basically means cool, dope, sick, like, oh, that man, that right there is Tuani, like that the hat that I have on is Tuani. And I wanted to do something similar to that. And like I said, being raised loosely by Dominicans and being in DR for my personal time a couple of times, hearing that word tigre, like, man, you need to talk to El Tigre. And it's like what they use as bro, as brother, as hermano. And yeah, that is Undercrown El Tigre.
To jump to another hot topic as we kind of getting towards the close of our conversation here, I don't think we
Hmm.
can have a conversation right now without talking about J.Sann and Son, because that was
Yes,
another big, again, like you
that
all were like
was huge
days
for us.
leading up to it. It
Yes.
was just like they're inundating us with new releases and new stuff. So what can you? I know it's still early stages, but what can you share about that project?
Well, it's a family establishment. First and foremost, it is where you get to be and see the founder's full vision. Jonathan, this is a full circle Jonathan Drew moment as well. He was a retailer at the World Trade Center, and now is going back into the retail space with J.Sann Son, and of course, it's an ode and homage to his son, his JD2. Which I'm a son, and it's something that it's very aspirational and humbling, and it gives me more drive, right, to legacy. But it's also not just about that. It is a full experience. We're going to have a full kitchen, a full bar. Of course, we're going to have cigars, hand selected cigars by Jonathan Drew. They're going to pass his inspection. That Liga is going to be on that humidor if it didn't go through JD's hands. I guarantee you that. We also have live music that is going to be there. And we have the family factory that's attached to the venue, to the lounge, where they're rolling 500 cigars a day there. So JD is basically is fully emerged now with this new with this. It's not even a passion project, but this project. Of course, Drew Estate is 50/50 partners with. And again, a little similar to the Drew Dominicana, I get to be on the ground level floor. It's been super exciting going on my visits to J.Sann Son, seeing little different things. Early access, something also I named. We switched it up to early access, but besides the point. I'm just tooting my own horn. We we gave a bit of a sneak preview or early access to the venue. You got to see it a little bit there on that episode where we basically announced the two brands as well. So if you're looking or wondering what it looks like, you could see it there. Not fully 100% done, and that's also been great to see and being part of, like, man, like, it's the small little fixtures. And JD's like, what do you think about that? You think that's cool right there? I'm like, dude, that looks freaking sick. What about this light? You think it should go there? No, I think you should turn it that way. And then it stays that way. Like, I was like, oh, I got my little piece. And Jay said, and so I changed that light that way. But it's been awesome. We have these brand new brands that also JD has come up with. 13 years. That cigar to me is already my favorite cigar of life. Madrugada, homegrown, trademark, and of course the West End collaboration with West End Gin with Stacy Wade, who him and JD go back, and he's been to Nicaragua. They're basically like brothers, and that is also something that is great to see too. This family environment, or these people that JD has. And that's something just special, real quick. And I know probably people hear me like, oh, he's just kissing butt to his boss. No, no. Honestly, this is just, if I, well, I mean, of course, I would never be in these situations if I wasn't with Drew Estate. So I don't know, dude. This information, what you will, is that like seeing the people that have helped JD along the way throughout these 30 years of him still being close to that. It shows you more about the man that JD is, right? Espinosa from Espinosa Cigars coming out, and he started off at Drew Estate, right? You know, there's brands that basically Drew Estate has birthed in some ways or another too, and it's always love, it's always respect, and that just tells us what we need to know, or a little bit about Jonathan Drew. And with back to J.Sann Son, going back to that, he's gonna have cigars that maybe you can't get everywhere. So definitely stay tuned on that, jsannonson.com, and also on Instagram. um help me look good with boosting up those followers. But no, in all seriousness, we can't wait for the doors to be open, because we know that this is going to be an experience like no other. It's not going to be like any other cigar lounge, because it's not just a cigar lounge.
And the last of the big hot topics from Drew Estate, I think you can't have a discussion about Drew Estate without talking about events and
Mm.
like all the
Hmm.
swag that you all create for these events.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a
Perfect.
little bit about, it's 2026.
It's
You're probably already
2026.
planning 2027 stuff. What can
Oh,
people kind of what can
I've
people
been. I also help a little bit out with that too. If you best believe we have a lot of exciting stuff for 2027. But we have So now with our new, sorry, my headphones about to fall off. For our new events that are happening now in the second tranche, now starting in May, we have these limited, very limited. We only did a certain amount. This is approved Metallica Drew Estate merchandise that you'll be able to get
wow.
at our in-store events. So if you go to drewestate.com, events, in stores, check for the ones that are nearby you. This is a Metallica artist that did this graphic. They have like a team of artists that they work with, and we got the opportunity to work with this particular one. His name, fortunately, slips my mind, and then on the back there we have, of course, the Rebirth of Cigars. But yeah, this is now available, of course, with some other cool things. We have this blackened lightsaber. Catch this one if you can. Really, just like the shirts, a lot of these stuff we not that we made it all limited. It's just that this one, of course, was for a certain thing. It goes alongside the European tour, but also into when they start performing at the Sphere in Las Vegas, which those tickets went crazy. We thought we had a bad thing with Barn Smoker. They had a whole thing about that, about those tickets selling out way too quick. But the lightsabers, I know we have a couple, but they just been flying off of the the territory managers or sales reps his hands, because a lot of people want this. It's really cool. I'm actually happy this is empty. My sister thinks filling up butane is a man's job, so when this is done, it's just in the pile of lighters and I have to refill it. But it's a lightsaber. This thing freaking shoots up, and I probably would have burnt my microphone if it did have butane in it. But no, this is such a cool item too, and it does look like a lightsaber, and we also have it in black. So look out for that at your local events. And of course, we have Down with the Crown. We announced the tickets are still available. I believe there's a few still left. It's happening in at the sportsman field at Phoenix, Arizona. So check that out. We're going to be going through the Undercrown line, and of course, I'm going to be there smoking El Tigre. So definitely would love to see you guys there.
Well, awesome. At this point in the show, we usually kind of like to draw things somewhat to a close. I know we have a couple more things to film, but with two questions. The first of those questions is, do you have a philosophy that you like to live or work by?
Dang, if I live and work by everything, it's my dad's philosophy, and of course, it's ingrained in me. Everything has its limits, so it's about that balance of when to say goodbye to the party. It's about, do I smoke another cigar? Do I stay around and hang out? I can't only be all about work. I have to balance it. That's probably some of my Libra tendencies too.
Mm.
Right? Like I gotta have a balance of personal and work life. Um, so yeah, definitely, everything has its limits.
And I want you to finish this sentence. Javier is.
A man, a son, a brother, your friend, the guy you could go to if you need anything.
I think that sums it up. Can you tell people? First of all, I want to thank you for coming on. Like I said,
Thank
we,
you.
we
I
talked about
appreciate
it
it.
a couple weeks ago, and I
Yeah.
had it on my list, and you kind of beat me to the punch as I was wrapping up all this trade show stuff. So thank
dude.
you for
It's
doing it,
crazy.
and thank you for coming on today.
My
Um,
pleasure.
it was great to kind of get that, like I said, behind the scenes perspective of one of the biggest companies in the premium cigar world, and just how it operates and how it's continually working on things and trying things, innovating. I know that's a word that we overuse over the last couple of years, but innovating and just trying to figure out how to stay, top of mind, which is kind of marketing, everyone's goal in marketing.
Right. Yeah, that mind share, right? That's what they talk about. Yeah, being on top of mind for sure.
So for those people who are not watching this and maybe just listening, can you tell people what website, social media stuff they need to follow in order to get more information about Drew Estate, and also
Of course.
if you have any social media of your own that you want to drop,
Oh
let us
yeah,
know right
perfect.
now.
Yeah, definitely. You want to visit this brand new, exciting, up to date website that we have, drewestate.com. That is Drew Estate. You don't have to add any S's to estates or to Drew. A lot of people like doing that. Of course, we have our Instagram at Drew Estate Cigar that you can follow us where we're pumping out content. Might see my ugly mug there in a couple of posts because the budget is short and we can't afford any models. I'm joking. How he's happy to do it. And also for my social media, of course, if you want a little bit more personal touch and not feeling like only Drew Estate, it's bigger than anything in this world. Is Drew Estate Javi, Javi. You can follow me there, and yeah, we could talk cigars. I've seen people like both cigars. I'm like, how did you get that? And we start trading cigars. It's really cool. It's really awesome. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yes,
I,
thank you.
I loved it from a little bit of what I saw, but then now being a guest, you nailed it on its head about like being here and participating in it and not to fully understand it. And definitely love the vibe that you set for me here today. Thank you again.
No, thank you for being on, and stay tight because we have a couple more things to film. But for
Yeah.
anyone watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Whatever social media you're on, where you're seeing this, make sure you hit follow button. If you're listening to this podcast on any of the podcasting platforms, be sure to leave a review. I tell people you could be very frank, very honest in those reviews. All reviews help, whether they're positive or negative. But leave a review. And if you want to see any of this episode or any of the other interviews that we've done for Deep Cuts Live, you could do so at youtube.com/deepcutslive. And until next time.
Peace.